Good afternoon. This is a regular meeting of the Brownsville Navigation District. The time is 5:33 and today is Wednesday, August 4th, 2010. If everyone please rise and Reverend will lead us in prayer.
Father, we thank you for this time together this evening. We thank you for the Port of Brownsville. We thank you for your blessing upon it, for the shipping traffic. We thank you for keeping it safe, for blessing our discussion tonight, and fulfilling your plans and visions for this port in the future. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you.
Item number 2, public audience. There's no one signed up. Item 3, receive port director's report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, there's a couple of items I'd like to kind of discuss with you today. The first is the Tiger II grant application. We've discussed this in the past in terms of the second round of Tiger. The second round of Tiger for preparations and submissions of grants is currently underway. On the 26th of July, all prospective applicants needed to do a pre-application. The pre-application is not necessarily a guarantee that your application is going to be considered. It's just a formality that needed to be done. We went ahead and submitted a pre-application to essentially put ourselves in the queue. What we would like to do from a staff perspective, and certainly with your concurrence, is to go ahead and submit a Tiger II application. It will not be due till the 23rd of August. The application itself would be a joint application with the Port of Manatee. And the application would be positioned where we would try to take advantage of the Maritime Highway and kind of play that up. Some of you have been involved in some discussions we had as a follow-up to Tiger I, and so you kind of know where we're coming from with that whole aspect. Initially, there was some thought that the application would be geared more towards furthering that enterprise associated with Marine Highway and the link. But essentially what this application would do, both on behalf of Manatee and on behalf of the Port of Brownsville, is actually to go after and secure port infrastructure funds. In our case, our Tiger I application we submitted was about $73.5 million, and that included a Dock 16 of 900-foot berth. It included an oil Dock 6. It included the north rail yard. It included some equipment repairs, and so all told it was multiple components. The average award under Tiger I was about $33 million. So we know that there's no way you're going to get that kind of consideration. So I think we really need to look at how we scale back our project. Under Tiger I, it was 100%. You could conceivably submit a project and get it all funded 100%. There was no requirement for any kind of match. Although they encouraged, matching funds, and the more investment there were by the applicant or other parties, the better received it was. Under Tiger II, since we will be competing as an urban port in that category, there is a 20% match, so it's an 80-20. When we look at submitting a Tiger grant application, that would be for an additional berth, and in this case we want to do a Dock 16. We need to bring that project into more parity than $40 million, which was the original estimate. We have gotten some numbers from HDR to go back and look at scaling back that project. And the way that would be done would be, if you recall, on the original Tiger I was the 600-foot dock with the 300-foot additional. We also had planned to construct that project for what may inevitably be somewhere down the road a 50-foot draft. That project came out to about $40 million. we believe we need to get this project more into the $25 million range. And so what we asked it to do, at least preliminarily, was just to go back and look and say, okay, if we went with the original concept of a Dock 16 with no 300-foot in between, and we build it similar to what we have now at our currently authorized depth of 42 feet, what kind of numbers would we be looking at? The response that we got back is that we could bring a project in, according to the estimates, in the range of $25 million. So if we submit a request for federal dollars for $25 million, we still have to have a 20% match. And what we would propose in the 20% match to consist of the following. One is there would be some rail improvements that would still be part of the project. There'd be some rail equipment that would support the operation in and around that area, but the big item is a crane, is to if you're going to build another dock, we're going to need another crane. So what we're looking at is, if we're going to submit a $25 million grant request, we're going to have to match it with about $6.2 million. Now, there's obviously no guarantee that our grant will be approved. If we had to certify tomorrow, if that's what we chose to do, that we had $6.2 million on hand, we can certainly do that. However, if there's going to be any rail components as part of this, I've already spoken with BRG, and so that 20% would come out of BRG. One of the ways that we could tackle, if we were successful as getting this, is yes, we can certify that we can do this, but the thing about the crane is you can finance that over 5 years, and so consequently the upfront cost may not be the $5 million, but over time you would be committing that. Manatee's application is going to be similar. They're going to go after an additional berth. They're going to have some rail improvements, and in their case, they're also building a container yard that is in proximity to the berth. Their request is going to be for about $33 million, and then their match is going to be about $7.28 million. Even though we're submitting a joint application for the purposes of linking the two regions through this maritime highway connection, we are hopeful that they will be viewing them as two different applications where the project monies will flow to the project and not to any one entity. One of the discussions we had this week is we may need to do a memorandum of understanding between both ports, and we're shooting to have this available for the 18th to have both ports approve it. That would say out, okay, if the funds were received, this is how they would flow. This would be the portion for the Port of Brownsville projects. This would be the portion for the Port of Manatee. And so consequently, make it very clear. Even though that we're receiving some very strong signals that a joint application would get favorable consideration in the sense that it would make our projects more appealing. No guarantee that we would get. The way the formatting of the application process is we're finding it to be a little bit of a challenge. But nonetheless, the plan right now is to go ahead and pursue a joint app, and to pursue it in that manner, where we're going after money for a Dock 16. If we are successful, we won't know probably till October, September, October. That's when the awards would be made. That's when we would have to make the commitment to accept the award and obviously commit the money. I think if we can get 80 cents on the dollar from the federal government to build Dock 16 and to do it in such a way that we can operate it and build our container base operation there and other cargo operations, it's still a good deal for us. It would be our intent to do that. So at the next meeting and getting there, we would come back to you and go ahead and get formal authorization to go ahead and submit the application.
Is there anything, this is very well laid out for us. Thank you very much. You always give us good information. I was just wondering if we would be able to apply any of the money that we've spent for all the engineering work that's been done toward the project.
They already clarified that. They went back and kind of like, okay, we learned from the first round. The first round, if you recall, did have that. Now, the advantages that we have is that they're still want to approve projects that are going to get done quickly. And so consequently, we've already made that investment. We already have it permitted, so there's no kind of issues. And those are all pluses. Those are things that are in our favor. But we can't go back and count that as credit towards our match.
Okay.
They made that pretty clear that we can't do that.
Just wanted to ask.
So one application application is not contingent on the other application.
That is the intent. Yeah, that is the intent. Now, however, we want to do them in such a way where the argument is compelling that they can't just approve one and not the other. They really need to look at this as a joint app and approve the improvements for both if we're really going to take advantage of this maritime highway.
What additional cost are we going to have with the second application?
Well, you all authorized me to go ahead and get some help, and we're using the same consultant that both Manatee and ourselves are, and it's really helping write the application so that we can make that compelling case. Right now, we're looking at, if any commitment is going to be about $10,000. Most of it is being done in-house. Donna has spent quite a bit of time on the process already, so we're not really going out and doing the big job. And we're going to take advantage of as much of the information that we got from the first application. We got some very good information on cost benefit, on some of the what they call the livability issues and all that. So we're using all of that information for this application. Now that is the Tiger one where we actually would need to make a financial commitment. There's another Tiger application that we're also part of that I need to make you all aware of, and that involves a rail project. In the first round of Tiger, we were actually involved in 3 applications in some form or fashion. We had our big application that we did that you're very familiar with, if you recall. Then we did another application that involved the Port of Corpus Christi, BNSF Railroad, and ourselves to address a couple of bridges that are on the main line between here and Houston, north of Corpus, at Placido and Angleton. And the problem there is there's 2 bridges that are substandard, so they don't allow the rail line to run full cars. So that's a competitive disadvantage. And so the BRG did make an investment with the Port of Corpus and BNSF to go ahead and do a study and put that application together. That was not successful. When the announcements on Tiger 2 came out, we spoke with Corpus, and so we had a dialogue. Under Tiger 2, there's a set-aside of $140 million that they consider for rural projects. And rural projects are 100% financing. And so we said, well, why don't we go ahead and go after that again under the rural category? It doesn't cost us any money. And we get lucky and we get it. And in the end, so we've agreed to do that. We're not committing any port money to that. Corpus isn't committing any port money. The only thing is commitment is staff time, and they're really kind of bearing the burden of putting that application together.
Would this be for BRG on the rural money?
Well, BRG wouldn't get any money. The recipient of it would be the fact that we have an upgraded rail line that now can be utilized to full capacity. The advantage is that it benefits both the Port of Corpus and the Port of Brownsville.
For us to be able to have an alternative.
Right. So we're going to appear in a grant application of that nature. The last one, because I mentioned under Tyrone we're part of 3, Union Pacific had put together a large Tiger grant, and so they went to all the areas and said, okay, here, we're going to try to, what do you need? And so that one included the scale that actually we're going to have to do ourselves, but that wasn't successful either. So we're going to have an application in for the port project, and then we'll have another one under the rural category that is a rail project. And so we won't competing with port dollars per se, but it will be viewed as a rail project. And we're successful, well, we will get some benefit out of that as well.
What's the amount that we're looking at for that?
On that particular application, I think the Tiger request was around $16 million. Is what it was under Tiger 1. So, obviously, it isn't going to be as costly as port infrastructure project. But the benefits of that would be that, we could be able to compete online, or BNSF could compete on par with UP for cargoes in and out of Brownsville or in and out of Corpus going to Houston. So that's the plan right now. Like I said, we've submitted our pre-app. The state of Texas, this time TxDOT, said, well, we want to do the same thing. We want to support. And so they asked for ports to submit applications. Well, I think we were the only port application that was submitted this round. And so they've committed to support our application. They've even committed to provide staff time as necessary. So if we need any support from the state on any of that, we've got their commitment to do so.
That's good.
So we're, if we, the worst thing that can happen to us is what happened to us the last time. They said no.
What's the
But-
date, Eddie? What date do you know?
The applications are due to be filed and submitted on the 23rd of August.
But what day will we
And
know?
they're looking, I believe they said I think it was mid-October. You know, we won't know till the fall. I guess these are all mid-November election announcements.
Of course.
But nonetheless, I think, you know, again, we've invested quite a bit of time and energy, and I think we need to take the most advantage out of it we can. So, and port infrastructure to us is critical, and if we can get a Dock 16 out of it, then it'll be well worth the effort.
Absolutely.
That'd be fantastic.
Assuming that we would get the $25 million on the Tiger grant, we would have to match the 20%, $6.2 million.
So
Would
it'd be
the
a-
port be in a position to, I mean, do we have to pay it? If they approve it, would we have to give them the money right away, or how does that work?
No, I think that we have to show evidence of a capability to match the 6.2 million. And, you know, if they held a gun to our head, the commissioner said, you know, we need a check, well, we actually have that
Yeah.
money. We hope we don't need to do that, but we can commit to the fact that we can meet our obligation under that 20% match.
Okay.
And again, if there's any rail improvement part of it, then we would go to BRG for that 20%.
That's good. Hope we get it.
We do too.
25 million and 16 for the rail.
That'll work.
If there are no more questions under the Tiger 2 grant, then board retreat. This is something that we did last year. We're kind of a little bit running behind schedule, but we really do need to try to pin down some dates where we can go ahead and take some time off to not only revisit what we talked about last year, and maybe a good opportunity to kind of compare a report card on last year's issues, this year's issues, and things that are still on the drawing board. But last year, if you recall, we dedicated a full Saturday to, you know, getting down to some discussion. I believe, based on some of the issues that we have talked about, and I know are going to be important for discussion, we may want to look at a day and a half, because I think we've got a lot to do and a lot to talk about. So maybe if you could set aside a Friday afternoon and a Saturday would work, but we need to kind of agree on a schedule. And so we're already into August. September is going to be a busy month. We've got a lot of things going on in September, so I don't know, but
It's October, and then
yeah,
November.
then
Why
we're
don't
to
you
the holiday season.
shoot us all an email with some dates that work for you in September and October, and then let's just try to see.
There's no
Well, we
chance of looking at August, even
Oh,
the
there's a
latter part of August.
There's a chance.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's shoot it out.
I'll put together some Thursdays and Fridays between now and say the middle of September, see what
Okay.
those look like, and then have
Sure.
an opportunity. But if you get a chance to, you know, start thinking of what's
Just don't run it into November.
no.
You said the Bahamas, right?
Yeah, no, from the first week in November to the end of January.
Deer season.
But so I'll go ahead and be sending you some times, but be thinking about those dates, and if we can't do a day and a half, well, then even whatever time we can set aside will still be useful.
Okay.
That concludes
you.
my report. Monthly director's reports, if you have any questions.
The other thing is Manny, if you don't mind speaking a little bit about what you're going to be doing with our website and the broadcast of these meetings on the web, on our website.
As of this meeting, this will be on our website within the next week, and it'll also be on the Port of Brownsville Facebook page and also available on YouTube. And the way it's going to work is we'll have a link to YouTube on the Port website, and we have another link to the same site to just have the archives on there from every other site. So if you would look, 2 years down the road, you'd click on that link and it'd give you, the last 2 years worth of board meetings.
Okay, great. Appreciate you getting after that so fast. That's going to be a good deal.
That's good news.
Thank you, Manny.
Just a quick comment regarding the Siemens Center. Just something that I thought about, and that perhaps Eddie, if you can pass on to the architect, perhaps it'd be a good idea if maybe he could include a memorial as part of the Seaman Center for, you know, those local seamen that have lost their lives on the line of duty. I think that might be something.
That's a very good idea.
You know, I haven't discussed it with anybody, but I just thought about it, and since he's already going to start looking at that, perhaps that would be a good idea to include something like that to honor those, you know, seamen that have lost their lives.
I'm sure that Reverend Andreas Lewis will be glad to identify them and find something appropriate to.
Well, yeah, I do know that if, you know, I know that the memorial at Isla Blanca Park that honors those mariners, those fishermen that went out and either didn't return or you know, died in the course of their jobs, does have that. What I don't know if it's just the fishermen who are the community of Port Isabel, or does it include all of the fishermen from both the Port of Brownsville and the Port of Port Isabel. So we may already have some of that information, and then maybe just need to update it. But I know that memorial was done that specifically for that, and it has quite a few names on it. But again, what I don't know if it includes those that were based in. I do believe it does.
Yes, it does.
But having something
Still a good attitude.
I'm just saying something local in addition. Maybe it doesn't have to be quite as fancy.
And
but
the other thing too, that one's kind of dedicated to the fishermen. You know, we are a center that's open to all mariners.
Right.
And so maybe something that would address that. But certainly.
Good point.
It's a good idea, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
Item number 4, consideration and action on the following consent agenda items. Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of July 21st, 2010. Item B, approval to authorize payments over $25,000. Item 1, Vulcan Materials Company, payment on road project in the amount of $65,127.82. Item 2, Vulcan Materials Company, payment on rail project BND use in the amount of $43,848.70. Item C, approval of the following leases. 1, Francisco Abrego, new lease. 2, 905 BNW Inc. amendment. 3, Brownsville Gulf South Warehouse Inc. amendment. 4, Luma Trading Inc. amendment.
Okay. B, you have any?
They're all ready.
They're all ready.
I was waiting for you to get up and say table.
No table.
Great.
Okay.
Better approve
motion,
before
Mr. Chairman.
they get tabled.
Motion
I'll
by
second.
Commissioner Ramala, second by Commissioner Masso. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 5, receive submission of ad valorem property tax calculations for the 2010 assessment.
The calculations are in your packet. We've also proposed to you a recommended rate for you to start considering. We'll bring it back to you at the next meeting for you to adopt. We were hit this year in calculations with a lot of different factors, some of which hit us in different years, and all of them hit us in the same year. We had some lawsuits against our valuations. We lost about $11 million in value to that. We had some new exemptions, including the state deduction exemptions. And those did us for about $13.5 million. And we had some new ag values, which we lost about $3 million to those. Even though our valuations went up this year, we did have to factor in a lot of reductions. And our recommended rate is still going to go down, but we're going to be having to take some money out of our M&O.
Well, you're getting ahead of yourself there.
I am.
Let's talk a little bit about the effective tax rate. Because what you have is essentially is what we got from the certified roll is that with the adjustments, you actually have a slightly smaller taxable value. So what that does in effect is that our tax rate last year was 0.048253. The effective tax rate because of those adjustments would be 0.0486. You know, negligible. I mean, you know, the effective tax rate. However, what Debbie is saying is that we know how important it is to continue the streak. So what we've added in your package, just information that for you to consider would be a recommendation that would essentially would set a tax rate that is lower than the effective tax rate. And so essentially that would represent continuing that tax decrease. Now, we've had adjustments in the past that have been very minor. You're never going to see, unless you see your values or something happen, that you're going to see a full penny or half a penny. But we have seen it consistent, and we've made every attempt over the past 17 years to actually make it an attempt to effectively reduce the tax rate from one year to the next.
So if we do accept this at our next meeting, it'll be the 18th year in a row, correct?
If you choose to
reduce
accept
taxes.
the recommendation, which the recommendation that we've put together for you to consider, this is not an action item for today, would essentially set a rate below the effective tax rate. The rate that we would suggest, or that we could say that you could consider, would be 0.04782. And so that is below last year's rate. It is below the effective tax rate, and it is technically, does constitute a tax decrease. So,
But it would reduce the revenue to the port by $44,700.
yes. And again, as you can see, the majority of the money, considerable majority of the money that is generated for ad valorem taxes is not for port operations. It goes for principal and interest payment on our debt. The last year, that tax rate, assuming that everything holds out, would have generated about $630,000 of money that could be used for the port for operations and or capital. The proposed tax rate, assuming that the projections go out there, would generate about $585,000 of funds that could be used for capital and or operations. About $2.7 million of what would be collected beyond that is all for general debt obligation, the principal reduction and interest payments. So, we continue to not rely on ad valorem taxes for port operations. There's a lot of information in your package to consider, but in effect is the effective tax rate, and last year's rate is really what it really boils down to.
The only action today would be to acknowledge that those have been handed to you. You're not setting the rate today or even.
Okay. But your feedback would be welcome, whether it's today or between now and the next meeting would be.
Thank you. Thank you for.
What I'd like to look at, Eddie, would be if we can get some information regarding how they are figuring out the taxes on some of the properties, because I know for a fact that in my neighborhood there were several properties that taxes went down by about $10,000, and my properties went up about $12,000. So how are they determining how the taxes are going to go up, and why are some going down? And I see a lot of uneven treatment or distribution of the taxes, the appraisals, and I'd like to get some more information on that, because I think it should be fair to everybody. And if I don't know what system they're using in order to figure that out, but I think it should be fair to everybody.
We can contact the appraisal district and see if they will come and talk to us how they arrived at the values here. But I will tell you that I agree with you, because I happen to be, this is the first time since I've owned my home that I happen to be one of those that can say I actually saw my values go down. I've never seen that before. Every year it seemed to go up. Yeah. But I'm not complaining this year.
Oh, you're not.
I am.
But
And I lost at the appraisal
but I do
district.
know that they've been up and down. But I guess we can ask them to come and say how they figured not only ours, but I suspect that whole process is going to affect everybody else.
Yeah.
But
I'll have some samples for them, so
Yeah.
I can explain to me how it is that.
Bring mine too.
Yeah. I'll try again.
Don't put them on the spot.
The only other question I have, Debbie, is I know last year we talked about the firm that collects our delinquent taxes, and they're supposed to give us an annual report on how they're doing. Have we gotten anything from them recently?
Well, it's the Cameron County, the firm, Linemarker.
Right, because I know we have delinquent taxes owed to us.
I have not. I will tell you that our certified collection rate this year is like 9.9%, We're about as close as to 100% as we can get. So our certified tax collection rate is very high compared to a lot of other counties that I've talked to. Our actual through June, we had collected 91% just straight off the top of the last year's assessed. So we do collect on our own without the delinquent collections very well. But I haven't. It's true. I have not received anything.
Okay, well, if whatever you can find out, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for you and Eddie and everybody's hard work in being able to structure things so we can still lower taxes for the 18th year in a row. So everybody else wants to raise taxes and we're lowering them.
Yep. Okay.
I just need a motion to
So
accept,
moved.
acknowledge.
Mr.
I'll
Chairman.
second that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Ramala, second by Commissioner Lopez. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 6, consideration and action authorizing Port Director and CEO to execute an interlocal cooperation agreement between the Brownsville Navigation District and Cameron County for the Bahia Grande Main Channel project.
Mr. Chairman, I go ahead and ask you to table this item. There's still some finagling going back and forth, and so we can have it ready for the next meeting.
So moved.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 7, consideration and action to approve change order number 2 to the Brownsville Navigation District's internal road project and to authorize funding of same from the Port Capital Project Fund.
Mr. Chairman, after discussion with legal counsel and on Port's side, we're asking that you table this item for the meeting. We need some additional information from the contractor to finalize this item.
Okay.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Cowan, second by Commissioner Lopez. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 8, consideration and action to award bids for surplus items received July 28, 2010.
Thank you. This is the same one that was in our
It
packet?
should be the same one that you have just.
Okay.
I'm talking about that
Oh,
pretty
well,
little
this-
chart
the
that you
pretty
have
chart,
there.
okay.
Yeah, let me see that.
There you go.
Let's keep this right here.
Last Wednesday, we opened bids. We had sealed bids for some salvage equipment that we had for quite a while. And you'll see in the table, we did get bids for all but 2 pieces of equipment, and then we had some propellers and shafts that we got bid on. And we are recommending that we accept the bids in yellow highlight. And as a matter of interest, those bids will generate $14,498 from salvage. We had some other items that we had sold just straight to scrappers. We had $12,910 for those. We got 12.5 cents for those. And there's another item that we'll talk about later. But all told, we're thinking that our salvage sale, this one and the one that we did in January, will get about $60,000 on the salvage. So we're very pleased. We have a very shiny shop yard. And get some money.
And for each item was the high bid, there weren't any problems with any of it?
There were no problems with any of the bids.
Those funds go back in the general fund?
Yes, they are.
What about the ones that were no bidded? What do we do with that
It's on the next item.
next item?
Yes,
Okay.
we have already.
Doing scrap, but that's the next item.
Any
So move, Mr. Chairman.
moved by Commissioner Ramala?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Musso. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 9, consideration and action to authorize the disposal of the items that were not bid on during the July surplus and salvage sale as scrap and award the sale of these items to the highest bidder.
At this sale, we had a mobile trailer, an excavator. We had 8 propellers with shafts and 3 propellers without shafts. And we either did not get a bid or did not get a minimum bid on the items. We are asking for 2 things tonight. We're asking for you to go ahead and give us authorization to sell these as scrap. And we have actually already contacted our scrap dealers, and we have pricing for it and a recommendation to award these to the various scrappers. Wilkinson Brothers was the high bid for the Admiralty brass, which is the propellers, at $1.83 a pound. And they also bid for the stainless steel, which is the shafts, at .726 per pound. And Port Brownsville Recycling bid 14 cents a pound for the trailer and the excavator. As far as what that would generate, we believe that the propellers will bring about $15,000 at that price, the shafts about $3,000, and the two pieces of equipment about $4,000 based on their weight.
So on scrap, we can contact people directly?
In our policy, yes.
Okay.
Just because these are assets on our books, we are bringing them back to you to ask that we be allowed to do this, and because the total is going to be more than $10,000.
Okay.
Debbie, just a quick question. You have the propeller shafts that were minimum bid were $2,250 with the $1.83 a pound. What does that translate into that we're getting
That was
for
at
that?
about 6 cents, and we're getting on those $1.83. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what those were. We're getting 50. Joe can tell me.
We had a bid, not a bid, but a quote from one of the scrappers for about $1.50. So we based ourselves on the value of the shafts and on the value of the propellers, based on about $1.50 and $1.60 a pound. So it came up. The propellers came up a little bit more at $1.83, and the stainless steel, which is the shaft, came a little bit lower, about 70 cents.
So it still came up, the total's still going to be close to what we would have gotten.
Well, we had actually estimated, if you recall, that we were going to make about $30,000 from the sale. We're going to make about $36,500.
So the overall deal, average out, we're doing very well.
So it's a good.
Well, will you entertain a motion for us to approve this?
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Cowan.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Massa. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 10, adjourn into executive session.
Do you have anything for, okay.
Okay, item 11, possible action, there's nothing there. Item 12, public comment. We do have someone to speak, Mr. Ed Mishu.
He has, what, 3 minutes?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman and gentlemen of the board, I appreciate the opportunity to address you. The reason I'm here expressing my opinion is my concern about the future of the direction of the port. I noted, and what prompted me was the information regarding the cruise line potential for this port. I'll qualify myself by saying I am a Brownsville resident, and I'll provide a further disclaimer that, yes, I am a candidate for Congress for this district. So I have a double interest in the future of this port. As far as qualification to express my opinion, I have no maritime background, I admit. However, as a retired senior military officer and as an executive Fortune 500 company, I do have a lot of experience in the planning and execution of those plans. In looking at this cruise line operation, I think it's an extremely glamorous proposal. It's got lots of romance to it. But I don't think it's the practical thing for this port. I understand, and I may be wrong, that the Port of Corpus Christi is beyond the planning stage and the study stage, and they're into the stage of actually talking to a cruise line about an active operation up there. And they are more centrally located to the market area of the Valley and North Mexico and San Antonio, Austin market. So I think further pursuit of a cruise line would not be prudent expenditures for this navigation district. But I believe the cargo world is the world that Brownsville can expand in and do a lot of sustained growth in. Not only we have the Maritime Highway that Mr. Camarino has been talking about that has a lot of potential, we have, I understand, the potential of a return of a ferry operation between this area and Central America for both passengers and vehicles, which, given the problems in Mexico right now, I think has a lot of potential. But to my humble opinion, the long-term big potential is that with the completion of the expansion of the canal, we're going to see a tremendous increase in trans-Pacific maritime cargo traffic entering the Gulf of Mexico, and the Port of Brownsville ought to be the one to capitalize on that. And again, in my opinion, we have the real estate and the potential to build the infrastructure to accommodate that traffic. A lot of the ports are landlocked. They don't have that potential for growth that we do down here. So I would urge you in your future discussions to consider more of that cargo influence in the future than the glamorous cruise line, because I don't think the southern coast can support 2 cruise line ports, and we are the end of the road, and we are not going to get as much of the potential cruise line business as the Port of Corpus Christi will get. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you
And
very
I might
much.
just add, I had the pleasure of spending 8 years of my life on a board like this. Not nearly as significant as this board, but 6 of them in your chair. I appreciate the work that you all do and the dedication you've got to do that job.
Thank you very much.
Item number 13, adjourn.
Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Very good.
Peace up, you were right on the money.